Welcome to the Tabletop Empire Behind the Table podcast. My name is Nate. If this is your first time here, this is our special guest podcast. Today I'm joined by some of the people involved with the reSpecialized project for Star Wars RPG. Drew, Elliot, welcome. So glad to have you.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah. So I always start these with kind of just a fun, unrelated question relating to Star Wars. What is your favorite Star Wars character?
I'm going to let Elliot go first. Mine's longer.
Are we allowed canon or non-canon? What is the rules on
Whoever
this?
you want.
Kyle Katarn. Just smack right down there. Kyle Katarn. Gotta be my man Kyle. He's the guy that got me into Star Wars and to game design. So I got good memories of that. So
It's fair enough.
Oh man, Dark Forces 2 takes me back.
Mine's kind of a character-person combo. If Jar Jar Binks has no fans, I am dead. I love Jar Jar Binks so much. I love the Gungans so much. I love Ahmed Best so much. What Jar Jar did for 3D modeling and 3D mocap and like the first major like mocap plus performance plus a physical acting performance that like paved a way for an entire sub industry. It's just too damn impressive. And the story and the beautiful and complex story that Ahmed's gone through over his career and disengaging from Star Wars for very, very good reasons, and then being re-embraced by people that grew up with the prequels. It's just it makes me appreciate the joy in Star Wars more than anything else, because the goofy comic relief character is someone's favorite character, because every character is someone's favorite character. So appreciating that about any given character is why Jar Jar's my favorite, because he's my favorite.
No, that's fair. I do like Jar Jar. I grew up with the prequels. If like Desert Island situation, I probably would choose the prequels just because they're not as good as the original trilogy, but they make me happier.
Mhm.
So,
Yes.
yeah. As far as mocap is concerned, yeah, Jar Jar walked so Gollum could run.
Oh, absolutely.
100%.
And similarly complex and trying vocal performance as well. It's not like like Jar Jar's voice is just how Ahmed sounds.
Yeah. So how do you feel about Darth Jar Jar then?
I'm gonna be diplomatic. I think memes that exist to kind of reform people's kind of distaste for a character make like George couldn't be this bad at writing a comic relief character. There has to be something more going on there. Isn't like my favorite reason the meme exists, but Ahmed and his kid take it as very fun and positive. So if they can find the fun in it, I suppose I can too.
Yeah, I totally think it's just like a meme. It's a fun thing. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
For anybody who's unfamiliar, what is the reSpecialized project?
All right. Short answer: it's Star Wars RPG 1.5. It's FFG Star Wars RPG 1.5, unofficial. Got to put a big scare quotes
Big
around that.
There.
Yeah.
Asterisk.
The long version of the question is really just reSpecialized was born through a appreciation of how good the game can be and how like solid the bones in the game design language is in Star Wars RPG, and just appreciating that, like many languages, it goes through evolution. And unfortunately, when you start developing syllables and you're not really speaking the most eloquent, you're not making the most eloquent case for your language. And they did that over time. Like, Collapse of the Republic is a really good book. I would say Knights of Fate is a fairly solid book, and you just can't really compare that to Edge of the Empire Core or Into the Unknown, the first Splat book. So reSpecialized exists to give specializations all specializations, but specifically and most importantly, the ones from Edge Core, Age Core, F&D Core, a huge reimagining, using mostly what's on the tin in the blurbs for the specializations to help sell the fantasy and more evocatively and dramatically bring those character archetypes to life. I think the long and short there is that respec exists to make the specializations as fun as we've seen some of the later specializations in the game.
Yeah, that makes
Yeah,
sense.
when you look at a lot of the early specs, a lot of them, I'd never say they were bad specs, but a lot of them do. A lot of the later specs you see, they have their kind of unique signature talents that have things like, of course, you've got biggest fan, the performer, things like that. That's an example I always point to. But you kind of lack that for things like the assassin and for other early trees. So a lot of it is to kind of, and that's because they've, as Drew said, they've evolved their design over time, and so it's to kind of retroactively reassess the older specs.
What roles? I guess kind of introduce yourself with like what roles you guys each have within the project. If you haven't said it already.
So I'm the lead designer. I'll say most of the blue sky designing of a specializations like reimagination and structuring the conversation around having the around the development. Disclaimer: this is a very open community project. I take ideas. This is because it's not for money. And I do my best to credit as many people as I can. It's something that I develop. We develop in public, and we take good ideas, and I let people tell me my bad ideas are bad. And I'm very happy for that. So I'm head designer, communications person generally, and just kind of the logistics guy for most of it. I would say it's a split that's split between me and Elliot.
Yeah, I mean, my task, my name is Elliot, for anyone who doesn't know, also known as eBack on the Discord. I'm the graphic designer, I guess you could say. I'm the person who takes a lot of the design documents that's made up by during the team, and I'm the one that kind of assembles the final folios that then go out to public, or to the Reddits and to the Discords, basically so it makes it look close to the source book style as you can get, just because it gives a bit of presentation is key, as they say.
They do look nice.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Yeah,
very proud of them.
And I do want to shout out Filbert, who is manages some logistics, does a little bit of communication work, and a kind of keeper of the links, as it were. And Batope, who is a graphic design, I guess he's secondary graphic design, and we hope when this thing is, ready to be compiled, he was the compiler of the Fires of Resistance source book, and so we're hoping to lean on him heavily to help lay it out, because I only make specializations. I don't know how to make a splat book.
That's totally fair. That's neat though. I'm actually I was going to ask this question later, but I can go ahead and ask it now because it kind of relates. So I was looking earlier today at before we talked at the design sheet, and I noticed that all of them are still in playtest. Do you have any idea of like when they'll be marked as like completed, I guess?
So our design workflow has evolved a little bit, and I'll give you kind of a snapshot of what it looks like right now. We put out, we'll develop the specializations in groups of 6 based on the careers, which is the only thing that made sense to me at the time. And we'll usually go alphabetical, but sometimes we will jump around based on like interest, or someone has like a really hot idea that we want to like develop. We'll start there. we will develop it. We'll put it together. We will go through, unfortunately, too many editing passes for spelling and just readability. We are. If anyone's listening and you are a semi-professional editor and just would like to volunteer time, please, 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 please. But after that, we'll put it out. We'll say, here's our 1.0. And then we will get immediate feedback. There's somebody on Reddit, I forget their name, but they're phenomenal at, because they import it into Foundry and they do it by hand. And everything is, they're like, oh, this is bad. This is wrong. You've forgotten the. There's too many thes there. They'll do that for us every time. So we'll do a quick hot fix for just like an editing pass, and then we will put it into like what is considered like open playtest. I guess we've never really considered like what is done. I think it's done when we're done, right?
Yeah.
So what we've started doing when we started Age is we were like, man, some of these much like FFG and Edge's like design language evolving over time, so is ours. The Bounty Hunter was the first. I did Assassin almost by myself, and I don't have all my good ideas in a vacuum. So we said, okay, Bounty Hunter, we're doing a 1.1, 1.2, whatever it ends up being. And so we open them back up, do a big review roundtable, and hammer out all of our updates, and then do a full re-release of a previously released specialization. We just did that for the Colonist, and we're currently working on the Explorer. So when, who knows? That's
Yeah, the unfortunate reality of being a fan project is that we don't have access to like tables of people to test these things accurately. So we're relying on feedback from the community to really hone in on a lot of things, and we can math some of it out. Like there was a lot of discussion about sound investments and improved sound investments. We did the Entrepreneur, if memory recalls, about how we were mathing out how that can affect things. But even then, we just don't know until we get feedback from them. If they say this is too powerful, too not powerful enough. The great thing about being a living game, effectively, because we're a fan project, we don't have to rely on publishing a book. So we can go back and say, okay, we'll adjust that and fix that.
A funny thing there is that I have the beta book. I played the game before release, and there are a number of things in that book that were definitely talked about on the forums that made it into full release. And jury-rigged auto fire is one of them. so but I do agree. Like it's hard to oversell how big of a boon it is to be able to edit your work, because no one's perfect.
Yeah. So how did the idea for the reSpecialized project come about? Was there like a specific specialization or mechanic that made you say, like, we have to fix this?
So a sneaky thing is that this is actually the second edition, or the second attempt at reSpecialized. About 5 years ago, right after, or soon after, like the big like FFG may not have the RPG anymore. That like when it was like very like openly doom and gloom, and we're kind of in that like purgatory forever kind of space right now, but it was pretty sharp back then, and people were not content with it. I think it was the Scout. I think I was so mad the Scout sucked so bad, because the Ranger is my favorite archetype, and every game seems to get it wrong. And I was just like, man, I wish this was better. And I had done some work. I don't know what came first, whether it was me working on Fires of Resistance, or if it was me working on I should say I designed all the specializations in Fires of Resistance. Not my best work. Some of them are still pretty proud of, but I was a baby designer at that point, so I get points for trying. And but yeah, me and Wilhelm, one of the old mods from the Star Wars RPG Discord, and a very good friend of mine, best man at my wedding, great guy. We started designing, and first principles were, don't change anything more than you have to. never change a skill in a bonus career skill. That's a big conversation. That's some canon stuff you can't touch. And ultimately, I wanted to touch things a lot. He wanted to. He was a kind of um, a purist, if that's a correct term here. And so we butted heads too often to where we both started hating working on it. I still talk to the man every other day, but he is bad out of the project. We started doing a meta campaign together, and then later, I want to say it was because Filbert ended up hosting all of the old ones. I was like, oh crap, this Discord I forgot about. That I made 5 years ago has people talking about my work still. What is this? And then I was like, that's great. I'll try it again. And then people were just like ready for it, and it was and Elliot was on board almost immediately. I invited him and Filbert onto the team, and then we just started cranking them out. And it was really just a matter of like I've played more hours of Star Wars RPG through meta campaigning and just theory crap building systems for that, because you have to really hammer out some mechanics for that stuff. I felt I had a strong enough understanding that I could start really revisiting the project, and I had people that were excited for it. So we hit the ground running, and we just have not stopped.
Yeah, that's awesome. How did you guys all on the team connect with each other? Like, how did the team form?
Well, speaking for myself, I actually joined the Discord way back in the original version and release of the respec, which I think we call respec alpha at this point.
Oh yeah, you have a nice graphic for that.
I do have a nice graphic for that, which we do keep archived as well, just for the sake of history. And I always thought that it was such a great idea and a great project, and I was just following along with it. And then, of course, it petered out. Never heard much out other than that. I think you got some of the Colonist and Explorer ones done, but not too much else.
I got all the way to hired gun. I was starting bodyguard. And I think Explorer did something to both me and Will on a personal level. It's like we were trying, like there was like a sectarian religious divide over how to handle Explorer, and it just it didn't blow up the friendship, but it definitely blew up our ability to manage the project.
Right. But I've been using these since they were released, and my players really enjoyed the respec ones because it meant that suddenly they have these great specs they can utilize. One of my players to this day still uses Big Game Hunter and is utilizing the respec version because he prefers it over the alpha and also now the original as well. And so it made sense to me to kind of when Drew put out the call out saying that they're looking for help, I actually have background in game design. I've not actually done any actual design, but I've got a degree in game design. I went to university for it, so I decided, well, I know some graphic design and Photoshop. I'll throw my hat in the ring and see what I can contribute to the project, and that's where I kind of fell into things.
And what a gem he has been. He is my constant confidant. He is my private sounding board. He is
pain in the
always.
ass.
You're always checking up on me. I don't look at it like that. Always checking up on me, always making sure that I'm drinking enough water and sleeping, because sometimes I get into a little bit of a fugue state. But yeah, no, he's Elliot's been phenomenal, a phenomenal asset and a good friend.
Thank you.
And Filbert also has it feels weird to talk just about Elliot. Filbert's been there. Filbert is the reason that the project still exists. The fact that he had them all saved on his link tree, that was it. I was like, oh, someone gives a shit about this. And so I said, like, maybe people are still interested in this, and I decided to redo the assassin, and then it was off to the races.
I was looking through some of them earlier, like reading through some of the ones that I'm the trees that I'm using in my own like game where I'm a PC with some friends. I was just kind of curious and was like reading the respec version of them, and honestly, they feel a lot better.
What are you playing
through? Well, I guess the one that is for Edge of the Empire is a smuggler thief.
Oh man, thief. So I'm gonna I'll ask you about your experience with Thief, but I want to soapbox for a second on this game. Never understood how to utilize cunning. Never, ever. And unfortunately, those are the most fun archetypes: Scoundrel, Ranger, I don't really think there's one in F and D. Like the spy has some cunning, the seeker has some cunning, but so yeah, the seeker, the explorer, and the smuggler are just so woefully underbaked unless it's the presence based ones, and the thief is no exception to that. So like my inspiration for jumping into that specialization respec was like the thief needs to feel like a Guy Ritchie character. Right. I need to feel like, I want someone to be able to do like the cell within a set, like a frame within a frame, the handoff, there needs to be some planning, some like hijinks. Like it needs to feel very pulp.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm definitely a big fan. I'm looking forward to some of the Force and Destiny trees getting a rewind, because so my character is
Uh-huh.
a smuggler thief with a also the Mystic Seer tree,
Fun.
because it's like a Force emergent kind of character.
Mm-hmm.
So um there's aspects of the Seer tree that feel more like a survivalist than a Force
Yeah.
user that can like kind of see into the future a bit, and they kind of try to flavor it with the Force in that sense a bit, but it
Yeah. It's for Edge does a really good job of really bring together archetypes under a banner of what they do or where they come from or what their role in the underworld is. I think an Age doesn't have a problem with that because it's all about hierarchy and like roles in a military environment. But Force and Destiny certainly has some oddball ones that you're just like, what's the seer supposed to do? Like, doesn't 4C exist? Like, what's the vision for this character? I mean, I do like it, but I think there's probably some ways to do more.
yeah, or even just like rename it for clarity.
I mean, so we haven't talked about that, but that's something that's actually kind of an important aspect of this project. We didn't decide. We definitely did not cross that bridge until we got to it. Around the time we started, we got to explore. We were like, Scout exists in two places, and it sucks in two places. Um, does it belong in the Explorer? Probably. So do we need to just rebuild it? Sure. What's the spy going to get? Don't know yet, but it's going to be something completely different. And when we got to the pilot or the pilot and smuggler, we were like, I actually don't love pilot for either tree, and I don't like the skills. I don't like that every piloting specialization must be astrogation, piloting, gunnery, and there's like, wow, that's like not a lot of differentiation on the skills. So
Yeah.
we made the blockade runner because we thought the pilot in smuggler needs to be smuggler oriented, and the pilot in the squadron based group, which we've named wingmate, needs to be group squad mate oriented. So we've diverged their purposes, and eventually we'll probably create a universal that feels more like generic pilot as pilot, but that's a stretch goal. TM.
Yeah, I mean, that's actually one of those things I love about the project is us looking at those duplicated specs, having that discussion like, okay, which one deserves to kind of stick in there? Because there was a whole discussion about the scout and like, okay, are we going to do like we're going to have like a prospector spec instead and have scout be in spy, or we're going to have scout be in explorer and give the spy something? And it's a whole discussion we have, and it's fascinating because it allows us to stretch our creative muscles, and like thinking, okay, well, now what do we put in its place that was there? Blockade runner, absolutely loved it, and wingmate is one of my favorite respec ones we've done. So yeah.
Yeah. I'm excited to take a look at those, because I know, for at least from every game that I've played, pilot always feels like something that doesn't feel like a primary tree. Like it feels like a tree you maybe pick up later, or at least, and then, or even it's kind of the point where like I'd recommend my players, I'm like, hey, don't take pilot because space combat sucks, and I try to avoid it. So
So okay, so we're not too far away from Ace. Like we'd put out Ace,
Yeah.
and I'm going to be completely honest. I suck at Space Pilot as a GM, as a player. I'm very spatially challenged. It's the game where you have to play Armada in your brain, and I'm not good at that on the table when the piece is in front of me. I'm not gonna. It's just not anything I've ever been good at.
And then there's me,
I'm the same way.
who's
Yeah.
ran an entire squadron campaign. So
Yes.
that definitely lends itself to experience and how to kind of design for piloting based specs. So
Yeah, and there was a lot of people in the community that are, I mean, I would say decidedly space combat wonks, for the lack of a better word. And they were very helpful, along with people that had stronger opinions on space combat. Aside from maybe don't do it, it's kind of the thing you do between scenes. Right, I'm 100% with you. It's a means to an end in a lot of my games, and I don't love that about myself, but I accept it about myself.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was one specialization, and I guess with the pilot, the blockade runner, where I had to lean heavily on the community and my other team members to like give me the juice, because I didn't have it.
When you guys are recreating stuff, do you aim for like strict mechanical balance, or do you consider like cinematic Star Wars flavor when adjusting things, or is it a bit of both? And how do you balance the two sides of that coin?
it's such an interesting question because we're always conscious of the balance, but I think we tend to kind of lean in the favor of, does it fulfill the niche fantasy that spec wants to do? And most importantly, is it fun? A lot of times, and I'll often say this, I am not interested in talents to say you get +2 to this. It's not exactly, yes, sure, it's mechanically it's fulfilling that it gives you something, but it's never really interesting. I'm someone who likes like, oh, I get to do this unique stupid thing that I can pull off once a session that does this awesome thing. So I am more someone who prefers the more less mechanical, more thematic specs that we tend to make. That's where I get grounded by Drew, who can be more the technical side.
I mean, for me, it's mostly about a table grokkability situation. But to put it in perspective, you have skill rolls, which are not bounded by anything, but effectively you just say, the narrative dice have a difficulty scale, and the GM's going to be like, yeah, you can do it or you can't do it. And then you have talents, which either should make it easier, more consistent, something new that you didn't necessarily know you could do before, but you definitely can do now that you have the talent, or something that's like doesn't interact specifically with skill checks. But I like to think about, I like designing the skill check ones the most, because I think they tell you something about why that skill check is the way it is, or what extra they get to do. And you do have to work around not adding by subtraction, by saying, okay, now that this is here, people that have the skill just can't do this. But I think that's kind of a myopic way of looking at it to begin with. I think most people should understand that just because, what's a good example? Brilliant Evasion is a pretty bad example. Biggest Fan, for example, exists. It doesn't mean the character can't make a charm check to like, ingratiate themselves to a given person, like to the extent that they are doting on them. It just isn't structured the same way, and it's not a hard check. It might be a daunting check or a formidable check, right? But for me, it's somewhere between a skill check and with no talent, and double destiny point. I spent 700 XP signature ability, and you got to find more or less your balance in there. But more so with balance than balance, like, if you were using this talent, I want John Williams music to be playing in your head. That's how I want this game to play. Like, you should be feeling like the most archetypey version of your archetype, like of that character in the universe, when you're doing your thing, because it is your thing. And that's what I think the value of talents are. The talents like bring to this game in general is the ability to evoke things, not just to be mechanical gubbins. Like, I think the mechanical gubbins is honestly the least important part of it. I like the NDS, but I think minus the talents, like FFG is like not nearly as magical.
Yeah, I think I think just about everybody agrees that space combat, like mechanically, is the worst part of the game. But the most underwhelming part of the game has to be talent. Like I find find that I forget about the base talents a lot of the time, and I'm not really like looking at my talent tree a whole lot when I'm playing, and I kind of forget that they're there. And so like I'm getting more familiar with the reSpecialized project. I'm actually excited to like pull these up and actually give these a try in my next campaign, because I'm
Good.
hoping that it'll kind of bring that magic that's kind of missing from a lot of talents back
So
to
sorry, good.
feeling like it's worth the XP to actually spend.
Right. I have a lot of experience in board games, and specifically like action management board games. I've played a lot of those, and they're some of my favorites. And deck builders sometimes lean into that with like the shuffling and whatnot, but like the ones where you have what you have because you are what you are in that game is, to me, what makes playing like a asymmetrical game very attractive. Um, I'm a little bit of a collector, and for a long time, up until I started reSpecialized and realized I would no longer have use for them, I had every one of those little talent decks that they used to sell. I don't know if they sell them anymore.
They've been out of stock for a while.
They're going to be out of stock for a long time, probably. They're not like big sellers anyway. But I used to have all of them. And having your active talents in your hand, things that you can play, that you can say, I'm going to put my thumb on the scale here with this once per session talent. It feels it's not just a game thing. You're calling an audible on the story, and that's the important part of talents and the way they interact with the game. Like a lot of RPGs are like 80-10 character GM in terms of like how you are shaping the story outside of your character's actions. Star Wars RPG is a lot closer to 60-40. And talents, especially the like once per session big narrative talents, are a large part of that. And I think what make the game, like better than any other given generic system.
Yeah. I think most trees have those talents on them. I think for me, like what makes in general the core trees feel unmemorable is the fact that you have to get through so many other seemingly useless talents to get to the ones that feel magical, to actually like, once per session I get to do this really cool thing.
Yep.
And oh, well, would I have like 4 setback dice to knowledge Underworld along the way? That's
Right.
super helpful.
So I'm a little bit of a crusader when it comes to a couple of things. Just general power level due to stacking passive talents. Point blank. I know that what's it? Frenzied Attack and True Aim are not passive talents, but there's something you activate literally every turn as long as you can, with really no downside. So they're always on, and you'll just stack as many as you want and just try to alpha strike everyone. And Deadly Accuracy. You'll probably notice that we've removed Deadly Accuracy from the game because telling a person they should only use one combat skill ever, especially when a lot of these combat skills are a lot of these combat trees are not like one skill specific. You should want players to diversify their bonds a little bit, but we removed those just because of power level concerns, and just kind of like lowering the temperature in the GM player arms race, which in this game is very real. The GM has a lot fewer tools outside of just like Deus Ex Machina to like manage that. So that the sheer number of setback removal talents in the base game is ludicrous. Some of the talent specializations are literally half setback removal talents, and that's not on. That's not right. That's not fun.
It
Usually,
especially feels bad. So, like my game right now that I'm a player in, my GM, this is his first time actually GMing the narrative
Okay.
Star Wars game. He's 15 years older than me, and he's been playing D&D D&D since like second edition through
Mhm.
current editions and stuff. And so, one thing that like I'm constantly having to say like after the game, like, hey, like remember you have add some setback dice because I have these talents and I'm never
Right.
using them. So
That's a
Yeah.
big problem with the game in general, is GMs not knowing the tools they need to use to justify a player's existence. And for a lot of these trees, it's their entire existence is these setback removal talents. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a big my favorite dice set is RPK, because it's easy enough to pass. It has an upgrade that you can downgrade, and has a setback you can remove. You just got to justify it. Like every scene should be complicated. Designing white box encounters is the death of interest. Players are just going to roll pass in a white box encounter. So, uh, yeah, if a GM is not like engaging you in that way because they're not justifying your purchases, because they are the only ones that can really do that because they're imposing stuff on you, like that's unfortunately part of the growing pains of being a GM in the system. But also it's a sign of not enough agency in the player's hand to feel like they are weaponizing their stuff. Reactive talents need to be powerful and ubiquitous, or build to greater things. That's why you'll see a lot of talents that lean on setback removal talents that didn't exist before, like improved versions of setback removal talents, like improved street smarts. Like that's a perfect template for a lot of respecialized active talents. Of you're not just getting setback removal on these things you might roll once every other session. You're getting that and something you get to use every session that gets easier because you have these talents. That's where the game really sings. Like building intra-tree synergy and growth, and limit breakpoints is like very important for design, and just something they learned much later.
It did. It was also a great help that we could go back and sort out more problematic aspects of the game, like jury rigged. And I thought we were going to have riots when we released the Gambler. Oh, yeah.
Speaking of Gambler, so in our actual play that we're playing, we have one of the players, Joe, plays a Toydarian named Mott, and he picked up the Gambler tree sometime around like episode 11 or 12, and I think in episode 18 or 19 we were like, hey guys, so just Joe hated the Gambler tree because there were way too many useless talents on it, so we just refunded his XP for it and let him buy something else.
It's really funny because it's a tree that's almost devoid of flavor, and it's either doing nothing for you, or it's literally breaking every other specialization in the game. That's actually been people's biggest experience with it, is that second chances and a couple of the reroll talents just double or nothing just breaks the game. It just breaks the game wide open. They're like unmitigated, like dice roll fudging is just too good, and it can't be something that you just let me just sprinkle that on my Atari Striker. Let me just sprinkle that on my my Vapod guy. Let me just re-roll everything. Like it.
Yeah, I don't know if I necessarily have an issue with like I'm really bad at remembering the talents and their specific names, but there is one that might be double or nothing where you re-roll once per session. You can just re-roll one check. I know it's in the Enforcer tree.
Oh, you talking about just like the naturals?
That might be. Yeah, I do like that one. I don't know if that's what you're referring to.
So second chances is the one where you get to re-roll positive dice once per encounter. I kind of like that one. That one's okay. It still has the problem of being the potion. Re-roll talents are potions. You got to drink potions for them to do anything. And if you save potions, they don't do anything. And anyone that's played an RPG, like a game RPG, you know what your inventory looks like by about 2/3 of the way through the game. It's like, wow, here's all these, health potions I knew I'd use later. We are hoarding folk, us RPGers. And I found that the same with the reroll talents, is that it doesn't feel good to fish for better results. And it's often a talent that you don't want to use unless you're failing on something that's really important, and you never know what the most important the role is going to be. So you're just kind of, do I use it now? I'll save it, and then it doesn't come up again. That's why you'll find in a lot of our trees that have reroll talents, they are specifically not about your rolls. They're not, or they are about rolls that are fairly obvious that you want to reroll if you fail them. In the figurehead, we created a mass combat reroll. It's the only one in the game that you could reroll because it's not a check that anyone makes. You can't reroll that check. That one allows you to reroll a mass combat check, and if you succeed on the reroll, you get a triumph, which is pretty insane on a mass combat check, and that's why it's a 25 XP talent on a tree that's not really about mass combat. But yeah, no, I definitely understand the frustration with Gambler as it stood, because I feel like it's kind of like a bits and pieces style tree that you get so you can weaponize other parts of the game.
Yeah, and you have to get through
A lot.
like 7 up the antes before you get to the
It's
really strong stuff.
yeah, it's really frustrating. It's kind of like got all of the mechanical problems of Juyo, but with none of like the narrative like fluff there that makes it feel good to be falling to the dark side for the first third of the campaign. Instead, you're just, making more credits on gambling you're not doing. Great.
Yeah. So, how much playtesting is done before you guys, or how much playtesting is done before you like publish a new creator to the public to like Reddit or something? You already talked about like how you you make adjustments depending on what people say.
I would say almost zero, like actual gameplay, because it's not feasible for a team to of 3 or 4 at this
Right.
point. Yeah, but also the game is not solved, but the structure of talents are solved. Like,
Yeah.
you can say this narrative scope is too much for a hard check, or this narrative scope doesn't feel much more than a skill, so it needs to be more oomphy. And that's feedback that can be made regardless of whether they've played it at the table, because like you can like put yourself at the table for a lot of these talents pretty easily. And because like what's to advantage worth is such a dialed in concept at this point, like there's metas like there's a meta game around what you spend your advantages on mechanically. So I'm not going to say that there's no point to it. I'm just saying that there's not enough time. I'd rather be making more stuff and letting people that do get more chances to play do that playtesting for us. We have to put it out on paper or on these nice folios that Elliot makes for people to like engage with it.
Right. Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, that's kind of all the questions that I had. Do you guys, where can people find the reSpecialized project if it's something that they were interested in trying out?
There's a couple of places. We have our Discord. It's a we don't have a vanity link at this moment, but I will shoot you the link after the show, and you can get that dropped off if you'd like.
Yeah, I can put it in the description. I'll put that in the description, and I'll also actually, you know what I can do? I can just drop the Google Docs link into the description
Yep,
as
the
well.
Google Doc has everything in it. We're also on the community website. We have our own page. I made our own page.
Yeah.
The benefits of being the archivist is I get to do that. So we have a page where all of the RPG session folios that are pre-filled and ready to play live. And that's a place you can find us. Elliot, plug your show.
So I have a YouTube channel which basically it's You Back the Cat on YouTube. I do a RPG every few months or so with some players, which we do utilize the Respect Project specs, so we do some testing in there as well, and it gives me a chance to get some feedback myself from my players. So yeah.
Awesome.
I have a question for you, buddy.
Yeah.
What's your favorite specialization in Raw?
So here's the thing. I first played the game in like January 2016 on a snow day in university. I had a hallmate who was like, "Hey, no classes today. I'm gonna go play some Star." Actually, we invited him to play like Smash Bros with me and my buddy, and he was like, "Nah, I'm gonna actually go play some Star Wars D&D with some friends." And I'm like, "That sounds like awesome. Can we play too?" And he was like, "Yeah, sure. Come on." So we
Awesome.
that was the first time I ever got to play, and that was like a mini campaign that went for like 2 or 3 months. And from that point until literally 11 months ago, I was only a GM for the system.
Forever GM, man.
GM.
It is what it is.
So I don't really have a specific like specialization that, because I don't have time like playing a whole lot of time playing each specialization, so I don't really know.
Yeah.
I don't really have one yet. I'm right now having a lot of fun in the game I am being a player in, and I'm already kind of like trying to think of ideas of what I want to do for the next one. because I really am enjoying just playing this game for once instead of
Good.
running it. So
Like a
yeah, I don't
genie,
know.
you've
I don't know yet.
escaped.
I am enjoying the Smuggler Thief and the Mystic Seer. It's just there's certain aspects of it that I think could fit that narrative better. So I'm excited for something like reSpecialized to
Great.
hopefully steer it in a better direction. I guess make
Well,
improvements.
Smuggler, I mean, Thief, I'm pretty happy with. It's probably going to be not touched a ton when we do our like re-review of Smuggler, but you could always use that instead. You could always talk to your GM. Were you the GM of the last campaign with that
Uh,
gang?
so with that group, I was the GM for
Oh
about
man,
a
you
year
have
previously.
you can introduce whatever homebrew you want. That's the
Yeah,
that is the
yeah.
them's the rules. But
My
I
GM's pretty chill though. I could probably switch over and he'd be fine with it.
yeah,
So
only if you want to.
yeah.
But I would love your feedback on Thief because I haven't got to play at all lately.
Yeah, I will definitely talk to my GM, and if I get to switch over, I will give you my feedback on it after a couple
Awesome.
sessions.
Absolutely.
I will say that like I've been familiar with the reSpecialized since probably 2022, 2023, because I've been pretty active on the subreddit or like I lurk in the subreddit.
Sure.
I don't post a whole lot of comments or posts. I try to sparsely promote our actual play. I try not to overdo it like with a weekly
Mm.
post or anything, but um, I've been familiar-ish with the reSpecialized projects. When Elliot emailed me, I was like, "Oh yeah, this project it looks really awesome." I just never got around to actually trying it. So now
Fair
that I
enough.
actually have like since Elliot messaged me about it, I've been reading through it a bit more, and I actually am really excited to try it. So if you guys are
Awesome.
listening and you've never heard it before, if you had heard it before and were like me and kind of just didn't really bother to dive into it, go check it out. I think it's really looks really really neat, and I'm personally excited to give it a shot. So
Awesome.
but yeah, guys, this was a lot of fun. It was great meeting you guys and talking with you.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you guys enjoy the video, blast like, consider subscribing for more Star Wars RPG content. Check out the links to reSpecialized project down in the description below. Thank you. A huge thanks to our Patreon supporters. All of you guys make the channel possible. If you guys have any questions in the comments below about reSpecialized, go ahead and drop them. But yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video. Until then, and as always, may the Force be with you.